Hello, I'm Carol from Making Weight Loss Easy. Let's tap today on anxiety. Anxiety is one of the main reasons people start to overeat or make poor food choices. So, if you have never tapped before, please go to Carol, Carol, at makingweightlosseasy.com. Actually, that's my email address. And send me an email and I'll send you the quick start guide so you'll have some background for tapping. Carol at makingweightlosseasy.com. Okay, so if you're anxious now, give it a SUD level on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the most anxious, 0 being not at all right now. And if you're not anxious at the moment, see if you could recreate a situation where you were anxious. And when you think of it now, what is the SUD level for anxiety? Okay, let's set up at the setup point on the side of the hand. Even though I sometimes get very anxious, and when I do, I'm prone to eating the wrong things, I still love and accept myself anyway. Even though I sometimes feel anxiety and stress, and that leads me to making poor food choices. I love and accept myself anyway. Even though I sometimes get anxious and I feel this jitteriness in my body and mind, I still love and accept myself. This anxiety that I feel, it's sometimes hard to control. Sometimes I get very anxious at work. Sometimes I know exactly why I'm anxious. Sometimes I really don't know at all. Sometimes I don't quite realize that I'm anxious. Just this so you can see the other 2 points more easily. This anxiety that pervades my life, anxiety and stress. I feel it at work. Sometimes I experience it at home. I could feel it in my body. My mind gets very jumpy and fearful. I'm in the habit of turning to food when I feel anxious. I really don't know what I would do without this food. I'm so used to having my treats when I get anxious. For a while, they calm me down, but later I feel badly because I've eaten just what I vowed not to eat. Okay, take a few slow breaths and see what your SUD level is now. If it's gone down to 3 or below, you could go on to the next part. If it's still higher than 3, I'd suggest tapping on this first part that we just did as many times as you need to get it down. And if anything comes up while you're tapping, tap on those things as well. Okay, let's continue. Even though I sometimes get very anxious, I'm feeling more calm now. Even though food is my go-to when I'm anxious, I'm choosing to consider other options. Even though I'm in the habit of turning to food when I'm anxious, I now realize there are other possible choices as well. This anxiety that I sometimes feel, I feel less of it now than I did earlier. My breath is a little slower and smoother than it was. My body feels a little more relaxed. My mind is calmer. Just this tapping reduces the anxiety. I wonder what it would be like to choose something besides food when I feel anxious. I could easily reduce this anxiety level just by a few minutes of tapping. There are other things I could do to reduce this anxiety. It might work for me to take a walk. It might work for me to take a few slow, smooth breaths. It might work for me to just stop and recenter. I could come up with many ways to reduce anxiety. I can even take a list so that if I forget when I'm anxious, I could look back at this list that I wrote. I like the feeling of being calm, and I choose to stay calm more frequently. Calmness can become my habit instead of anxiety. I like this quiet feeling when I calm down. I know I make better food choices because I'm thinking much more clearly. If I'm calmer right now, then I could be calmer at other times as well. The trick is to notice it as soon as possible and start to tap or do something else that can help quiet my mind. See what your SUD level is now. Your goal is to keep tapping till you get it to 0. And whatever comes up, tap on that as well. Maybe certain incidents that made you anxious, maybe specific foods you turn to when you're anxious. The more specific you could get when you tap, the easier it is to release the anxiety.